Holes. Today, Mr. Jensen is going to be reading three chapters here. Two of them are pretty short, so sit back, relax, read along with me, or just listen, and then please complete the assignment due by Tuesday night. Pretty straightforward, same thing we've been doing. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Miss Nair is going to be guest reading again on Wednesday, so look forward to that. And we're going to be integrating a little bit more with the movie and some of the images that we've seen. In the film adaptation of Holes, and seeing how they connect to what we're working on here with the novel. So, starting with chapter 8, let's get going. A lot of people don't believe in curses. A lot of people don't believe in yellow spotted lizards either. But if one bites you, it doesn't make a difference whether you believe in it or not. Actually, it is kind of odd that scientists name the lizard after its yellow spots. Each lizard has exactly 11 spots, but the spots are so hard to see on its yellow-green body. The lizard is from 6 to 10 inches long and has big red eyes. In truth, its eyes are yellow, and it is the skin around its eyes which are red, but everyone always speaks of its red eyes. It also has black teeth and a milky white tongue. Looking at one, you would have thought that it would have been named a red-eyed lizard or a black-toothed lizard or perhaps a white-tongued lizard. If you've ever been close enough to see the yellow spots, you're probably dead. The yellow-spotted lizards like to live in holes, which offer shade from the sun and protection from predatory birds. Up to 20 lizards may live in one hole. They have strong, powerful legs and can leap out of the very deep holes to attack its prey. They eat small insects. They eat small animals, insects, certain cactus thorns, and the shells of sunflower seeds. Chapter 9. Stanley stood in the shower and let the cold water pour over his hot and sore body. It was 4 minutes of heaven. For the second day in a row, he didn't use a soap. He was too tired. There was no roof over the shower building, and all the walls were raised up 6 inches off the ground except in the corners. There was no drain in the floor, and the water ran under the walls and evaporated quickly in the hot sun. He put on his clean set of orange clothes. He returned to his tent, put his duty clothes in his crate, got out his pencil and box of stationery, then headed to the rec room. A sign on the door said "Rec Room." Nearly everything in the room was broken. The TV, the pinball machine, the furniture, even the people looked broken, with their worn-out bodies sprawled all over the various chairs and sofas. X-Ray and Armpit were playing pool. The surface of the table reminded Stanley of the surface of the lake. It was full of bumps and holes because so many people had carved their initials into the felt. There was a hole in the far wall, and an electric fan had been placed in front of it. Cheap air conditioning. At least the fan worked. As Stanley made it across the room, he tripped over an outstretched leg. "Hey, watch it," said an orange lump in the chair. "You watch it," muttered Stanley, too sore to care. "What'd you say?" the lump demanded. "Nothing," said Stanley. The lump rose. He was almost as big as Stanley, and a lot tougher. "You said something." He poked his fat finger in Stanley's neck. "What'd you say?" A crowd quickly formed around them. "Be cool," said X-Ray. He put his hand on Stanley's shoulder. "You don't want to mess with the caveman," he warned. "The caveman's cool," said Armpit. "I'm not looking for trouble," Stanley said. "I'm just tired, that's all." The lump grunted. X-Ray and Armpit led Stanley over to the couch. Squid slid over to make room as Stanley sat down. "You see Caveman back there?" X-Ray asked. "Caveman's one tough dude," said Squid. He lightly punched Stanley's arm. Stanley leaned back against the torn vinyl upholstery. Despite his shower, his body still radiated heat. "I wasn't trying to start anything," he said. The last thing he wanted to do after killing himself all day on the lake was to get into a fight with a boy they called the Caveman. He was glad X-Ray and Armpit had come to his rescue. "Well, how'd you like your first hole?" asked Squid. Stanley groaned. The other boys laughed. "Well, the first hole's the hardest," said Stanley. "No way," said X-Ray. "The second hole's a lot harder. You're hurting before you even get started. If you think you're sore now, just wait to see how you feel tomorrow morning, right?" "That's right, Squid." "Plus the fun's gone," said X-Ray. "The fun?" said Stanley. Don't lie to me, said X-Ray. I bet you always wanted to dig a big hole, right? Am I right? Stanley had never really thought about it before, but he knew better than to tell X-Ray he wasn't right. Every kid in the world wants to dig a big hole, said X-Ray. To China, right? Right, said Stanley. See what I mean, X-Ray? That's what I'm saying. But now the fun's gone, and you still gotta do it again, and again, and again. Camp Fun and Games, said Stanley. What's in the box? Asked Squid. Stanley had forgotten he brought it up. Paper. I was gonna write a letter to my mother. Your mother? Laughed Squid. She'll worry if I don't. Squid scowled. Stanley looked around the room. This was the one place in camp where the boys could enjoy themselves. And what'd they do? They wrecked it. The glass on the TV was smashed, as if someone had put his foot through it. Every table and chair seemed to be missing at least one leg. Everything leaned. He waited to write the letter until Squid had gotten up and joined the game of pool. Dear Mom, today was the first day at camp. I've already made some friends. We've been out on the lake all day. I'm pretty tired. Once I pass the swimming test, I'll get to learn how to water ski. He stopped writing because he became aware that someone was reading over his shoulder. He turned to see Zero standing behind the couch. I don't want her to worry about me, he explained. Zero said nothing. He just stared at the letter with a serious, almost angry look on his face. Stanley slipped it back into the stationery box. Did the shoes have red X's on the back? Zero asked him. It took Stanley a moment, but then he realized Zero was asking about Clyde Livingston's shoes. Yeah, they did, he said. He wondered how Zero knew that. Brand X was a popular brand of sneakers. Maybe Clyde Livingston had made a commercial for them. Zero stared at him for a moment, with the same intensity with which he had been staring at the letter. Stanley poked his finger through the hole in the vinyl couch and pulled out some stuffing. He wasn't aware of what he was doing. Come on, caveman, dinner, said Armpit. You coming, caveman? Said Squid. Stanley looked around to see that Armpit and Squid were talking to him. Sure, he said. He put the piece of stationery back in the box, then got up and followed the boys to the tables. The lump wasn't the caveman. He was. He shrugged his left shoulder. At least it was better than Barf Bag. So Stanley has a nickname. All right, let's check out Chapter 10. All right, sorry about that. Chapter 10. Stanley had no trouble falling asleep, but morning came much too quickly. Every muscle and joint in his body ached as he tried to get out of bed. He didn't think it was possible, but his body hurt more than the day it had before. It wasn't just his arms and his back, but his legs, ankles, and waist hurt. The only thing that got him out of bed was knowing that every second he wasted meant he was 1 second closer to that rising sun. He hated the sun. He could hardly lift his spoon during breakfast, and then he was out on the lake, his spoon replaced by a shovel. He found a crack in the ground and began his second hole. He stepped on the shovel blade and pushed on the very back of the shaft with the base of his thumb. This hurt less than trying to hold the shaft with his blistered fingers. As he dug, he was careful to dump the dirt as far away from the hole as possible. He needed to save the area for around the hole for when it was much bigger, or much deeper. He didn't know if he'd ever get that far. X-Ray was right. The second hole was the hardest. It would take a miracle. As long as the sun wasn't out, he removed his cap and used it to protect his hands. Once the sun rose, he would have to put it back on his head. His neck and forehead were badly burned from the day before. He took it one shovelful at a time and tried not to think of the awesome task that lay ahead of him. After an hour or so, his muscles seemed to loosen up a bit. He grunted as he tried to stick his shovel into the dirt. His cap slipped out from his fingers and the shovel fell free. He let it lie there. He took a drink from his canteen. He guessed that the water truck should be coming soon, but he didn't finish all the water, just in case he was wrong. He'd learned to wait until he saw the truck before drinking the last drop. The sun wasn't up yet, but its rays arched over the horizon and brought light to the sky. He reached down to pick up his cap, and there next to it, he saw a wide, flat rock. As he put on his cap, he continued to look at the rock. He picked it up. He thought for a second he saw the shape of a fish fossilized in it. He rubbed some of the dirt and the outline of the fish became clear. The sun peeked over the horizon. He could actually see the tiny lines from where the fish's bones had been. He looked at the barren land all around him. True, everyone referred to this area as the lake, but it was still hard to believe that this dry wasteland was once full of water. Then he remembered what Mr. Sir and Mr. Pandansky had both said. If he dug up anything interesting, he should report it to them. If the warden liked it, he would get the rest of the day off. He looked back down at the fish. He'd found his miracle. He continued to dig, though very slowly, as he waited for the water truck. He didn't want to bring attention to his find, afraid that one of the other boys might try to take it from him. He tossed the rock face down beside the dirt pile, as if it had no special value. A short while later, he saw a cloud of dirt heading across the lake. The truck stopped and the boys lined up. They always lined up in the same order. Stanley realized no matter who got there first, X-ray was always in the front of the line. Then Armpit, Squid, Zigzag, Magnet, and Zero. Stanley got in line behind Zero. He was glad to be in the back so no one would notice the fossil. His pants had very large pockets, but the rock still made a bulge. Mr. Pandansky filled the boys' canteens until Stanley was the only one left. "I found something," Stanley said, taking it out of his pocket. Mr. Pandansky reached for Stanley's canteen, but Stanley handed him the rock instead. "What is this?" "It's a fossil," said Stanley. "You see the fish?" Mr. Pandansky looked at it again. "See, you can even see all its little bones," said Stanley. "Interesting," said Mr. Pandansky. "Let me have your canteen." Stanley handed it to him. Mr. Pandansky filled it, then returned it. "So I get the rest of the day off?" "What for?" "You know, you said if I found something interesting, the warden would give me the day off." Mr. Pandansky laughed and gave the fossil back to Stanley. "Sorry, Stanley. The warden isn't interested in fossils." "Let me see that," said Magnet, taking the rock from Stanley. Stanley continued to stare at Mr. Pandansky. "Hey, Zig, dig this rock." "Cool," said Zigzag. Stanley saw his fossil being passed around. "I don't see nothing," said X-Ray. He took off his glasses, wiped them on his dirty clothes, and put them back on. "See, look, a little fishy," said Armpit. And that's the end of Chapter 10. All right, so we see that Stanley's really struggling with these first couple holes. And in our assignment, I'm going to have you make some connections and also answer some opinion questions. But these are some short chapters, so I really want you to focus on the writing that I'm going to have you do in the assignment. Make sure you click mark as done and submit, and good luck, everyone.